Well, thank you for joining me for the broadcast today. I'm glad you're with me. I always enjoy speaking to you and sharing some thoughts with you. My broadcast today is going to be a little bit different than what it has been sometimes in the past because I'm going to share with you, I want to speak to you about the art of listening. As Marty and I have done marriage counseling and just speaking with others for over many years with countless couples, one of the biggest complaints that we have received from husbands and or wives is that he just won't listen to me, or he'll say she just doesn't listen to me at all. It's usually more common with the wives will say, boy, my husband does not listen to me at all, and so I always have to repeat things or whatever. And so this is really true. It's not just for husbands and wives, but it's also very important for just normal conversation. And just as we speak with friends, or we whether it's in a job application or whether it's on the work in the workplace or whatever it might be, the art of listening is something that has largely been lost. I mean, right now everybody has got to be entertained and has and needs seems like they need to have something in their ears or something is going on constantly rather than having learned the art of listening. And listening is a very important part of communication. And communication is the means through which we convey to others our thoughts and that we hear from what others' thoughts are as well. The scripture makes it really clear. Lots and lots of scriptures on listening to him. If you want to be wise, listen to the wise. If you want to be foolish, listen to the foolish. But the point of it is that it is for the most part, I believe, is a lost art. Especially that has been our experience with talking with and dealing with couples over the years, and just individuals as well. And the times when I was been coaching for individuals and helping them just to be more successful in their endeavors, one of the things that I always try to get across to them is the art of listening. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to take a section right out of our Marriage Matters manual, which is a series that we have often done through a weekend with couples. And we talk about the various aspects of marriage. And I actually might consider, now that I'm thinking about it, I might actually take some other sections out of that manual because I think that marriages are really under attack right now. I mean, with all the stuff that's been going on the last couple of years, the stresses and the pressures that have been on individuals as well as on couples, there's just a lot of stresses. A lot of marriages are struggling, and one of the areas where marriages break down is the lack of communication. And so what I want to do today is I want to talk about that lack of communication, and I want to actually take some. I'm going to read a bit out of my actually right out of my manual, and hopefully it's going to be helpful to you. But this is what so I'm going to read just some sections out of it. Then I'll discuss it as well. So being a good listener is one of the most, as I say here, is one of the most important skills you can master if you want to advance your career or build meaningful relationships. When you really listen, you demonstrate your interest in what is being said and you show your respect for the other person that is saying it. Listening is a magnetic force that draws people to us. I mean, there's so many people that have lost that art, and that we, like I said, we hear it a lot. I'm trying to say something and they just won't listen. So let's take a look at this. I've actually got 10 principles here that I'm going to go over. As I said, I'm going to read out of what I have in my manual, but then I'm going to discuss it as well because it's very important, I believe, in today's world that we learn communication. One of the reasons I think it's important for us to learn to have good communication is I believe that going forward, we as individuals are needing to be in some form of community. And when I say community, I don't necessarily mean everybody lives together in one place and does everything that like some used to in the past, but that we have people with us who are on the same wavelength as we are and are in the place where they can be an encouragement to us. We can be an encouragement to them. We can share our heart with them. They can share their heart with us. And in order to really do that meaningfully, we're going to need to learn to communicate so that as we are in communication, we can really share what our heart and our feelings are. So the first thing that I see, or first thing that I have here, is to make eye contact. If you want to be a good listener, the first step in being a good listener is to make eye contact with people while they are speaking to you. Good eye contact demonstrates a genuine interest in the person and in the conversation. So making eye contact, I sometimes see people as they're wanting to chat with you, or just have even just a meaningful conversation. Um, their eyes are wandering all over the place, and it just seems like their interest may be elsewhere. They're not really that committed or that concerned with listening to what you have to say. I'm just adjusting my iPad here just a little bit so I can see it a little better. But it's very important for us to make an eye contact while we're speaking to people. That means there's a connection that is taking place. And sometimes you say, "Well, which eye should I look at?" Well, I'll just give you a little clue to communication. Our brain crosses. So our left eye goes to the right side of the brain, and the right side of the brain is relationship. And the right eye goes to the left side of the brain, which basically deals with logic. So if you really want to communicate or really want to connect with people relationally, you look to and they're in their left eye as they're talking to you, and they'll be looking at your left eye as well. We do that unconsciously because our brain is telling, our subconscious is telling us we want a relationship with that person, because that's why we're attempting to communicate. So just watch it the next time we're chatting with someone. Watch where your eyes go. Your eyes, if they'll go to the left side, that is an indication that other person, although it's subliminal, that you want a relationship. If it goes to the right side, you're thinking about, oh boy, what am I going to do? How am I going to beat him in this conversation or whatever? So it's very important that we make eye contact. That's the number one. Secondly, is that we need to be present. I'm going to just read this little section here because it's very important for us to really see. So I'll just read what I have here. Be present. I must admit that I'm going to say this. I must admit that I've been accused at times of my wife of not being present when she's talking, even though I'm looking into her eyes. You ever talk to somebody and you almost feel like saying, hello, anybody home? You know that they're not asking, they may be looking at you, but they're not really thinking, or they're not really taking in what you're telling them. They're already off doing somewhere else, or they might be formulating a response to you. But I've had to go through this, and I've had to learn this myself because I have a fairly quick mind. And oftentimes when people are speaking to me and talking to me, want to get something across to me, I'm already figuring out what I'm going to say. I'll mention this a little bit later on because I had to learn to do differently. So anyway, it says there are times when my mind has been thinking about something other than what she's talking about. I'll have to admit it. And then my wife would be the first one to agree with me. I can only assume others have noticed, and perhaps at the risk of offending me, they have not said anything. The key here is to be aware that people do notice if we are not really listening, and so that we must focus on the discussion and not allow our minds to wander. Like I said, this is something that I've had to learn. Didn't have all that much communication when I was young. When I was a child, I had a bit of a speech impediment. I did some stuttering, and sometimes I almost come to that point again. But the Lord really helped me when He called me to preach. But I didn't do a whole lot of communication, so I really didn't learn that. And I was the sort of guy that I had a chip on my shoulder anyway, and if I was living in my own world. I was an only child, living in my own world. Whatever. I don't really want to get into that. If you want to learn more about that, get my autobiography, which is I'll have the links to it in the comments here, or in the biography of the broadcast. But the point is, we need to be present. We need to be present when we're talking to someone. We can't be wondering about what we're going to do next week or tomorrow, especially with a spouse. You just simply need to be present, to listen, to wait to respond until it's your time to respond. And we'll get into that in a little bit too. And in fact, that's number 3. Give no sign that you're ready to respond when somebody is speaking to you. If you're really listening, you need to hear completely what is being said. So when you're listening, don't give any clues that you're ready to respond. Don't point your finger and don't open your mouth. That can be a difficult one. When I speak with people, I see that they're listening to on pins and needles or waiting on pins and needles to respond. I know they're no longer listening to what I'm saying. They're just waiting for their opportunity to interject what they want to say. And so our meaningful communication is really falling apart. And so the reason for this is that they're more concerned with what they're going to say than listening to what I have to say. We pick up on this. We do it naturally, normally, without even thinking about it. We just do that. And so when you're listening to someone speaking, part of this art is, and it's an art that needs to be learned, is that you actually you listen, you stay present, and you don't give any sign. Okay, quick, finish talking so I can say something. Wait it out. Let them complete what they're having to say, because you never know what you're gonna what you're gonna miss if you don't. My dad used to say, I can remember as a kid, he used to say, every time a sheep buys, he loses a mouthful. Well, that's kind of the way it is. If we don't let the other person to finish saying what they're actually wanting to get across to us, we don't know what we're missing. But then there's another. And in order to do this, let me just give you a couple of indications on this. The next one is this is number 4. Wait 2 seconds to respond. Now, you may think, well, that's a long time to wait to respond to somebody's question or somebody wanting to say something to me. But here's the thing. This is especially true if you're speaking on a phone. And I have had a bad habit of this where, I tend sometimes to cut people off just right at the end, because I know that they've said what they're going to say and whatever. But we really need to learn to discipline ourselves to give a couple of seconds wait when someone is finished speaking. There's several reasons for that. One of the reasons for that is they may just be recalibrating their thoughts because they're not quite finished with the thought that they're wanting to convey. And if we jump in there too soon, we never will get the full measure of what they're wanting to talk to us about or what they wanted to convey to us. And so it's important for us just give that little bit of that little bit of time. That they might, like I said, they might just be pausing and say, okay, now how am I going to rephrase? I'm going to phrase this next sentence that I want to put across, or how about this phrase, this idea? And if we jump in there too quickly, we may cut them off and really miss out on what they actually have to say to us. Now, this is the next question. It's just a matter of a really just respect and etiquette, so to speak. Let the other person go first. That's number 5 here. If the two of you start speaking at the same time, just stop and say, "Oh, excuse me, you go ahead." What that does is it conveys a respect to that person and lets them know, it conveys to them that you are really interested in what they are having to say, even though you may not be as interested in the subject matter that they're wanting to talk to you about. You just need to, it conveys an interest that you have in them as a person, as an individual. And so let them go first, and you can just stop and say, "I'm sorry, please continue." Let them finish before responding. And even if you have to say something that's important or it's an answer to the question that they raised, show them respect by letting them finish. One of the things that destroys, excuse me, that destroys conversation, meaningful conversation, is over talking each other. That never gets you anywhere except into confusion. And so I'd really encourage you to learn this discipline. Then let another person, as you're in conversation with them, and this is especially true with a spouse, hear them out. Hear what they've got to say. Don't be so anxious and so concerned to jump into saying what you want to say, but give them the opportunity to fully express what's on their heart. And then you can express and respond to that. If it's a question, you can make sure you understand the question. If it's a conversation about whatever that might be, you have something to add to that conversation, give them the opportunity to share what they have on their mind, and then you can expect the same respect from them as you share what you have on your mind. So these are just some of the points that to me are really important that we learn, because as I said, the society today is so much in a rush, and everybody's listening to something in their ears, or they're just, everything is a go, 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 the art of listening has been lost in a large degree. And like I said, this is one of the most common complaints that we have and that we've had over the years as we speak with couples and or even with coaching people who I've done some coaching with people for they're just how to relate in the business world or relate to just in their employment situation. It's important to stay focused. Okay, so now the other thing is next this is number 6. Care about what's being said. This is where uh, this is where it's important for us to allow uh, let me rephrase that. This is where it's important to allow the other people to really have the first go at it. That's what I'm trying to say, um, because it's important for us that they have their opportunity to speak, so that when it's our turn to speak, we'll expect to be heard from them. So this is one of the things that is being said. This is why um, we need to learn that it's our way. If we really care about what's being said, it's our way of showing people that what they say is important and that they are valuable individuals. So now we get into conversations sometimes just kind of small talk with whatever. It may not really be all that much of an interest to you, but listen to what's being said, because what's being said really conveys something about that person that you may not have known before, that you can learn from, that you can actually uh, use to build a better and more meaningful relationship with them. The next one I want to look at here is listen for the message within the message. Now, this is a skill that one really needs to learn, because what happens in this is that sometimes people are saying more than what they're actually saying, or sometimes they're saying more in what they're not saying. And this is something that I personally have cultivated over the years, because as I'm listening to what someone is saying, it doesn't matter what kind of a conversation it is, I am listening for their spirit. I'm reading as best I can their spirit and what's coming across in that. Because here's the thing. Uh, I can receive wrong information if it's in the right spirit. I'd much rather do that than find right information in the wrong spirit. And so sometimes it's important for us to really to listen to what is being said, but at the same time also listen to what's not being said, and vice versa. Sometimes somebody is trying to tell you something, and they're not really using words to tell you. It may be a body shift, body language that's there. Learn to read body language, and so you can kind of get the nuances of what's really being said more than what's actually being conveyed. Very, very important step for you to do. And we, because we need to understand something, that most people are, especially in this society, in the way it's been the last few years, people are looking for encouragement. They're looking for answers to the subject that they discuss. They're looking for that. And by listening to it in this manner, we're able to connect with these people more effectively. And that's, to me, is really what we're after. Effective connections through effective communication. And through effective communication is through effective listening. Being present, being there focused. Don't be wandering off somewhere in your mind when somebody's speaking to you. Be present. Before I'll go back over these 10 points here and just as we finish this up in a few minutes, just to kind of give you a recap on it. But the other thing, we're at number 8 now. Don't change the subject. When you're engaged in a conversation, don't change the subject unless that discussion is finished. I mean, it's not only is it rude, but it also very quickly conveys to that other person, I'm not really interested in what you've got to say, because what I have to say is more important for you to hear that than it is for me to hear what you have to say. That's rudeness. Not only is it rudeness, it destroys any meaningful connection in making a communication or relationship or whatever we might want to use here. So, I've observed that where people are doing this in small groups, especially business meetings, other social encounters, If you change the subject of a discussion prematurely, you demonstrate a lack of interest in the discussion, indicate that what you have to say is more important. I already kind of said that just in other words, but this is really why it's so important that you don't change the subject. Wait till that subject is finished. I've known people that can never let you finish what you really want to say. They always have to jump in, and they either run ahead of you in the conversation or they want to change it a little bit to get their word in edgewise. In fact, have you ever noticed that when you're speaking with people, you're in conversation, and you say, tell them about an experience that you have, for instance, and right away you see their mind is rolling and rolling and rolling, because what they're looking at, they're going back in their memory bank, and they're trying to find a one-upmanship experience that they've had that they can quickly convey to you to show you that, oh, I'm in the know, I know exactly what you're doing, I've had those kind of experience, perhaps even a better one than what you've had. It's changing the subject to try to bring the emphasis back on me. No, let the emphasis be on that other person while they're speaking, and and do that through respect. Then let them know that you really are interested, even though you yourself may not be all that interested in that particular subject. Be interested in the person that's doing the speaking, because that's the important part. Relationship is what is really important, and that's kind of been the hallmark of my teaching over the 50 years that I've done this. And it's just, relationships are important. The issue is not the issue. The issue is the relationship. So and especially today, a relationship so fragile. People get offended over the most silly things. If you look at somebody wrong in the wrong way, they get offended with it, and they get all bent out of shape and angry. And we should be expecting that, because Jesus said that one of the marks of the end of the age is that people are going to be easily offended. Matthew 24 says, "Take heed that no man be offended, that no man offend you." So it's just don't change the subject. Let the subject be completed before you jump in and try to change it to bring it back into your ball court, so to speak. Now, one of the things that is also something that is to be learned, that has to be learned really, is to respond by asking a question. Now, when we ask people questions during a conversation, we show a sincere interest in the topic. Jesus did this all the time. I mean, every time people ask him a question, he would respond with a question himself. He almost always did that. I learned that from Jesus. And I learned many years ago that uh, asking questions gives you an insight into the person's understanding of whatever circumstance is that you're speaking about or that you're communicating about. When we do that, we actually get beyond just the feeling level, and we get into the thinking level. Because people, we're emotional people. People have emotions. People, they have lots of emotions, and unfortunately, most people's lives are ordered by their emotions rather than through logic and through me. Now, emotions are very meaningful, especially when you're dealing with spouses and couples. Of course, there's going to be emotions involved, but you also got to sometimes think beyond just the emotional level and really get into the logical level. And so this is where it's important to ask questions. If you and I were having a conversation here, and you were bringing something across to me, trying to encourage or try to inform me in something you're interested in, one of the best ways that I can show that I really appreciate your interest in that particular subject is ask you a question about it. I mean, a genuine question, not a demeaning question, but a genuine question showing that I have an interest in what you're saying. And so before responding and coming back with something that you want to put across to that other person, ask a question of them and let them respond, because in that response, you're going to hear their spirit. You're going to hear what their real genuine interests are. You'll hear a voice inflection, or you hear their heart coming across, and it's going to give you a much greater understanding of how you can connect more effectively with that particular person. All right, the last one, and this is also a really important thing: don't start a side conversation. When you're in a group conversation, never start a side conversation, even if the person speaking is not making eye contact with you. Don't take it off into another direction just because you're bored. No, I mean, being bored at times is part of life. And sometimes being bored is a good demonstration of our ability to have patience. It's our ability to just really respect and honor that person that's in front of you. And so don't start a side conversation. Yes, they should be including you in the conversation by sharing their contact with each person in the group, but don't allow their mistake to prevent you from being a good listener. This is part of the art of listening. This is part of learning to really be a good listener, because I can tell you a secret. The better listener that you become, the better communicator that you will be. In fact, I've often told people that effective communication is more listening than speaking. Because as you listen, you learn. And as you learn, you then are not only establish a better relationship or a deeper, more meaningful connection, but you're actually becoming wise. That's why the scripture says, listen to my words. And then I'm paraphrasing, not a Proverbs, but listen to my words, because my words will cause you to have wisdom. It's Eli's version. But it's so these are some of the thoughts that I wanted to give, share with you today, and hopefully they're helpful to us. I'm going to go back over number one: make eye contact when you're speaking to somebody. Make eye contact. Don't be looking off this way or off that way, or up here, or looking down at the ground. Uh, when I'm out walking, Marty and I are out walking. Sometimes it's amazing how many people, when you meet them on the pathway of walking, the first thing they do is they drop their head and they look down at their feet rather than looking at you, looking at making eye contact. People today don't like to make eye contact, and that's to me that's a fault of our society, because we the eyes are the windows of the soul. And if we don't want to make eye contact, something is not right, that we're not wanting to have that. We don't want anybody to see who we really are. And so that's number one. Make eye contact. Number two, be present in the conversation. Don't allow your mind to wander off somewhere else while you're supposedly listening to what's being said. Actually listen to what's being said. Be present. Hear the other person out. Don't interrupt them. Don't jump ahead of them. Don't be formulating your response and your own anchor. Your own answer rather. Let them finish what they're saying. So be present. Number three, don't give any signs that you're ready to respond. Listen completely. Let it all come to you before you respond. Now, this is a challenge. This has been a challenge for me over the years, because I have a quick mind and I can usually have two or three responses to you when you're speaking to me. But I've had to learn to stop, respect you as you're speaking to me, respect you, because whatever you're saying to me is as important to you as what I feel I want to say to you. And so I have disciplined myself. I can't say that I do this 100% of the time. If you don't believe it, ask my wife. But make no signs that you're ready to respond. In fact, excuse me, the number four is to wait 2 seconds to run. Give it a little bit of time. Let it finish, especially in a telephone conversation. I am still guilty of this in some ways. When I have a call and I know what you're saying and I know where you're going with this, and I got something else I want to do, and I'm getting done, so I'll jump in. I have to stop. So I'm sorry. I've interrupted you. Please complete what you're having to say. That was number four. Number five, if both of you start talking over top of each other, let's stop. Let them go first. Let you hear what they have to say on your heart, so you can then respond, because you've actually heard them out and you know exactly what it is that they're trying to convey. And number six, care about what's being said. Give attention. Let them know. And again, this is when you ask questions about what's being said, not in a challenging kind of way, but just in a way to be further informed. It not only encourages the other person, but it gives them value. It gives them credibility. And so this is another a very, very important one. That was number six. Number seven, listen for the message within the message. Joe's just taking everything at face value. What are they really trying to convey here? Is there a pain that you're feeling coming across and they don't really want to express, but you know it's there? What are they not saying that really is being said? What are you picking up in what's kind of left out, whether it may be shame or might be embarrassment, or might just be fear involved there. So listen for the message within the message. Don't just run over top of roughshod over top of it. Don't change the subject. If you're in a small group or even just on it with an individual and you're chatting about something, and don't be changing the subject until that the one whoever has the floor, so to speak, has finished what they want to say. Don't change the subject on them. Number 9, respond by asking questions. This is a good one. This is something, as I said, I've learned to do over the years. And if you've had much conversation with me as an individual, you'll know that I ask a lot of questions. And one of the reasons I do that is, as I've often said, you show me somebody with a lot of questions, and I'll show you somebody with a lot of answers. And then number 10, don't start a side conversation. This is important because finish one conversation at a time. That's part of being present. That's part of being respectful. That's part of giving honor to the other person as they're speaking to you. So I hope these have been helpful to you. I hope you've enjoyed this. I may actually draw some more of the lessons out of the marriage matters weekend that we do sometimes, or from other areas as well, because sometimes we just need to have some practical response, or we need to have some practical encouragement in areas. And so hopefully this has been helpful to you. If it is, hit the subscribe button or do a comment. Let me know that you're there. Somebody told me a few days ago, they said, I listen and watch all of your broadcasts. I said, really? I'm glad to hear that. Well, let me know you're there. I mean, I'm talking to a camera here. Let me know there's somebody on the other side that's actually listening to what I have to say. So anyway, and also by all means, if you have not received my autobiography, I've got right in below here in the description the links where you can get it locally. You can get it here in a local bookstore. If you're online, you get it all the places where books are sold. But anyway, I'm so glad you're here today. I hope this has been encouragement to you. Come back again. The Lord bless you, watch over you, keep you safe, and we'll see you again later on. Have a blessed day.